at commencement. And I said that I would. Genesis chapter 14. And what we're going to be looking at today, with, of course, tomorrow being Memorial Day, we're going to take a few minutes. But I've got a few things that we're going to look at today, with, of course, with Memorial Day coming, and what the and we're going to be looking at the necessity of war. War is a necessity, and if we think of war from a spiritual standpoint, chapter 14, we're going to read the first verses, and what this is the first time that war is mentioned in the Bible. Genesis chapter 14, and let's read the first 16 verses. It says this: "And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Eleazar, Shedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemember, king of Zebulun, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. And all these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the salt of the sea, which is the salt sea. 12 years they served again Shedlamer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Shedlamer and the kings that were with him, and smote Rephaim in Asheroth, Karnam, and the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh, Kirathaim, and the Horites in their mount of Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to Enmisphat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. And there went out the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, and the kings of Admah, and the kings of Zebulun, and the king of Bela, and went them in the vale of Siddim, with Shedlamer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountains and went their way. And Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plains of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Anar, and the dead of war. Memorial Day was officially proclaimed on May 5th, 1868 by General John Logan, National Commander of the Grand Army of the Republic, in his General Order Number 11, and it was first observed on the 30th of May, 1868, when flowers were placed on the graves of both Union and Confederate soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery. The first state to officially recognize the holiday was New York in 1873. By 1890, it was recognized by all of the northern states. The South continued to refuse to acknowledge the day, honoring their dead on separate days until after World War I, when the holiday changed from honoring just those who died fighting in the Civil War to honoring Americans who died fighting in any war. It is now celebrated in almost every state on the last Monday in May, which was passed by Congress with the National Holiday Act of 1971. On this day, we need to pause, thank God for the men and women who served our armed forces to bring liberty and justice for all to our country. May we truly pause and remember their sacrifice, their service, and their blood. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day and another opportunity, Lord, where we can come to your house. And Lord, as we think of Memorial Day and the sacrifice that was given for our freedom to be able to come to this church on this Sunday and not have to worry about the government coming in or police force coming in and persecuting us or trying to deter us from worshiping you, Lord. And we know that's because of the liberties and the freedoms that we have been given because of good men and women who have sacrificed their lives. so that we can have this opportunity, Lord. So we thank you so much for them. Thank you so much for their sacrifice. And Lord, we also want to thank you for the sacrifice that you gave us as well when you sent your Son to die on Calvary, because we then get freedom to serve you. We get freedom from slavery of sin because of that. So Lord, as we take the next few minutes this morning and as we look at a couple of different things from your word, I pray, Lord, that you'll teach us something new today. We call to memory something that we have forgotten, Lord. Lord, I pray that you'll just completely remove me from the situation that's going on this morning. That things that are said aren't coming from me, Lord, but just as a direct stream from your throne room. In your name I pray. Amen. War is a terrible thing. War is a terrible thing. And throughout all the annals of history, if all were known, there probably would have been billions who have died, both soldiers and in collateral damage with civilians, in all the wars that have taken place throughout history. Now, in all of the American wars, either by our country or within our country, over 45 million men and women have served in wartime, with approximately 1.1 million war dead and approximately 1.5 million wounded in action. Now that is a tremendous number of young lives that have been given or forever changed while affording us the freedoms that we now enjoy. Now war is not something that any sane man or woman actually wants. But what we find in our text, in the 16 verses that we read, that sometimes war is a necessary part of life. It has to happen. Men who will not fight will not remain free. Men who will not fight will not remain free. Henry Patrick Henry, who was a very fiery politician from our state of Virginia, gave a famous speech before the Virginia Provincial Convention. And it was quite the monologue. If you have a chance, go to Google and read it sometime. But I'm going to read you how he closed it up. It's pretty powerful. In such a country that we are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destiny of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. Battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is it is now too late from the contest. There is no retreat, but in submission and slavery, our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. War is inevitable. And let it come, I repeat it, sirs, let it come. Cry, give me liberty or give me death. It is the cry of the patriot. War is the cry of the patriot. It is the prerequisite for freedom. To live free, men must sometimes die. Freedom is a privilege. We do not have. And I'll continue to say, love it or leave it.
Amen.
Excuse me. Many people protest war. Many of these are professing Christians who are completely ignorant of what the Bible has to say about war. God is an advocate of wars fought for the right principles. The objectors or the pacifists are the ungrateful who fail to realize that their freedom was purchased with the blood of others. They're free to protest, they're free to speak, they're free to live, they're free to work, they're free this morning because men and women were willing to go to fight and to die. So on this day, on tomorrow, on Memorial Day, a wreath is going to be laid at the tombs of the unknown or unknown soldiers. as well as other dedicated places all across the land, we will be celebrating Memorial Day. And on the tombs of the unknown soldiers, on the western panel of that tomb, are inscribed these words: "Here rest in honor, or here rest in honored glory, an American soldiers, known but to God." Unknown but to God. Some interesting facts here about the tomb of the unknown soldier. And I think we all kind of know what the tomb of the unknown soldier is. But there's actually quite a bit of interesting things that happen at that tomb. And I've got a couple of these I kind of want to give to you here before we get into exactly what we have this morning. So some of the things about the tomb of the unknown soldier and the people who guard the unknown grave, which is called the Sentinels of the 3rd United States Infantry Regiment, also known as the Old Guard. And we've seen those guys with the white gloves walking across. That's the Old Guard. That's what that is. These are some interesting facts that kind of go with it. How many steps does the guard take on his walk across the tomb of the unknowns, and why? And it's 21. 21 steps. And it alludes to the 21-gun salute, which is the highest honor given of any military or foreign dignitary. How long does the gentleman hesitate after he about faced to begin the return walk the other direction, and why? The same answer, 21 seconds. Before he turns back and heads the other way, he waits for 21 seconds, and the same reason as the previous question, because that is the 21-gun salute, the highest honor. His gloves that he wears are wet. And why are they wet? He carries the rifle on the soldier away from the tomb. And after he marches across the path, he executes an about face, removes his rifle again to the outside shoulder. How often is the guard changed there? Guards are changed every 30 minutes. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The physical traits of the guards, what is it limited to? For a person to apply for guard duty, it's got to be between 5'10" and 6'2" tall, and his waist cannot exceed 30 inches. Some other requirements of the guard: they must commit 2 years of life to guard the tomb. They live in a barracks under the tomb, cannot drink any alcohol on or off duty for the rest of their lives. They cannot swear in public for the rest of their lives, and cannot disgrace the uniform